Hello and welcome to the Rangers Rabble podcast. On the eve of our trip to Dingwall, we'll be looking forward to all things associated with that fixture. We look back at Tuesday night if we can, deep delve into the manager's presser, and obviously anything you guys want to bring up as well. It is Friday night, it is the phone in. So when you see the number scrolling along the bottom of the screen, pick up and get involved. 01416287237 is the number you need to remember. And tonight I am joined by a strong panel. Brian, how are we doing?
Not bad. It's been a while. Work and just other commitments. So, yeah, it's been a while, but looking forward to this one.
Look, we've got Connor's son involved as well. Connor, can you just go and get your dad, please?
Very good. I think he's in Turkey seeing your dentist, Robert.
Shots fired. Oh. Here we go. Oh, nice to have you on, Connor, as always. And Ian, how are we getting on? The internet's holding out. You're all right?
It's Norwich, mate. It's touch and go. Anything could happen, but that's the excitement of it. Let's go for it.
As always, we're live on YouTube as well, so like and subscribe. Get your comments in. We'll try and pull them up and have a conversation with the guys as well. Listen, one place to start for me is the manager's press conference today, because there were some interesting bits that came from it. I'll start with you, Brian. He did mention, obviously, the only sort of concern was Ridvan. He won't travel tomorrow. However, Tom Lawrence and Kemar Roofe are going to be on the bus to Dingwall. He did sort of say that both will, they're not backups. He sees them more as starters. Was that a shock for you to hear that?
Yeah, I watched it and my eyebrows certainly went up when I heard that. I was like, really? I was like, wow. Roofe is an absolute starter. I was like, I could see Lawrence definitely, but the Roofe one I was kind of surprised at. Look, we've all spoke about Roofe we've talked about him till we're long in the tooth. He's easily our best finisher, but I'm afraid when you've got legs of chocolate, it doesn't really help. But hopefully, this is another dawn on Kemar Roofe's Rangers career. Is he going to stay fit for a prolonged period of time? I'd hazard, I guess, no. But Lawrence, massive inclusion in the squad. One of the few guys in the squad, actually, that's willing to shoot from outside the box. So that's a plus as well. Ridvan, he's obviously not quite fit enough yet, but it's always a difficult game up in Dingwall, as we all know. And tomorrow, I would imagine, will be no different. Good, strong Rangers support as usual. It's very surprising comments from him, but looking forward to the game.
Connor, I'll come to you. Brian touches on keeping Kemar Roofe fit. The manager sort of said regarding the European stuff, 3 games in a week for Kemar's probably a bridge too far, but he hinted that the weekend games in the league are probably something to sort of fit in with his sort of rehab and getting the most out of him. Is that something you'd go along with?
I think for the time being, it would be because you've got to, Kemar Roofe has been said on here before, he's made of chocolate, really. So the problem is you've got to make sure you keep him wrapped in cotton wool a bit, and I think that's what he's doing. I think we kind of all suspected that when he wasn't in any of the European squads that was the thinking. I think the thing that surprised me, obviously, was him mentioning the fact that he had him in his thoughts as a starter, because I would never in a million years have thought that. And listen, I have, been vocal in certain games where I thought maybe he could have started. I'd have liked him maybe to have started against Morton. He didn't. So it's interesting to see him saying that, because he's not gave him a lot of game time. And I think if you're going to build him to be a starter, he's going to need to get more minutes gradually as time goes on, because give him 5-10 minutes here and there at the end of games, I don't think that's going to really fully benefit him. But I can understand the concerns with the injuries, obviously, but hopefully somewhere down the line we can get him back to an element of fitness where he can play a part in European nights as well, because we all know he's had moments in those European nights where he scored one of the best goals you'll ever see in a European night for his own half. Set up Ryan Kent for what should have been a Europa League winning goal as well when he came on in extra time. So he's got that under his belt and experience. So I would all like to see him, but for now, I'd say I keep him in fitness for the domestic stuff.
Congratulations, Jim Sloan. He's become a YouTube member. We know Jim's a personality on the pod. He's always getting involved. So cheers for becoming a member, Jim. Thank you very much for that. The phone lines are open, as you can see, 01416287237. Producer Martin's sitting in the background, waiting to pick up your call. Ian, I'll come to you. Michael Beales sort of he said it was a big frustration that he's not been able to sort of pick these two since obviously becoming the Rangers manager. Certainly, I'm still of the mind that Kemar Roofe, when fit, is still the best finisher at the club. As Brian touched on, Tom Lawrence shoots on sight, which is great because we don't have many players like that. Do you see these two? Is Michael Beale painted the squad being massive this season? If we're going to get into Europe and we're playing sort of Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, whatever it may be, 3 games in a week. Do you see these two having a big part to play in that?
The Kemar Roofe one, yes, if he stays fit. We will caveat that with if he stays fit. He said himself in the presser that he'd be remiss not to rotate the squad, particularly at the moment with the size of it, for the amount of games we're playing week in, week out. If Roofe does stay fit, and you'd like the fingers crossed, we all want him to stay fit because he is pound for pound the best finisher at the club, then I can see him being a regular starter, be it through the middle or out on one of the sides if he chooses to handle wing. Lawrence, that's a tough one because where do you put him? Because we've got an array of talent in the positions where he plays. Does he start over people that are already there? It's a difficult one. I mean, the fact that look back at his last game was Ross County 364 days ago. That was the last time he put on a first team shirt in a league. So it's the same game. He's coming back in the same game. Hopefully the same fate doesn't await him. I like him. When he lined up last year against PSV to hit that free kick, he's going to shoot. There's no way he's going to shoot from there. He's not going to shoot. Then he hit it and was like, that's not going in, but it did. And then he had an absolute cracking effort over there, which came back off the bar. For all intents and purposes, I thought was in. So he's the type of player we want everyone else to be, to shoot, see an opportunity and take it. I see Roofe being more of a starter than Lawrence at the moment, just because of the position he plays in. I just can't see who, at the moment, Lawrence moves out of the way to play.
Listen, John Batchelor, he's back, the batch. £9.99 super sticker. Thanks very much for that, John. Delighted to have you back on. And in the comments, if you want to pick up the phone, you can do 01416287237. Be great to speak to you as well. Brian, we saw Tom Lawrence scored in the B team game. I couldn't help but that Neville Southall, he's only 13, was just sort of running through my head when that goal goes in. But still, as Ian alludes to, maybe he's not as up to speed or ahead in his programme as maybe a Kemar Roofe, so it might just be drip feeding him in. But certainly if he can sort of give us the resurgence that we've seen for Rabbi Matondo, it would be some signing.
Yeah, I mean, I think the manager said as much in his press conference that, he'll play a part tomorrow. He's certainly not going to play many minutes. So it's obviously going to be a case of 20 minutes, half an hour tomorrow, a half the next game, maybe start for an hour the next. He's going to, I would imagine it'll be a slow build up, this process for Tom Lawrence, obviously, with coming back from, an injury that's kept him out for, as Ian says, 364 days. So, it's not one you want to rush back. I think we had tried to rush him back before, and it's he broke down. So we've really got to be careful with this one. We don't want him breaking down again. And as I say, I think this is just going to be a slow build up for Tom Lawrence. 20 minutes here, half an hour there, and we've just got to be careful with him. We've been prone to rushing people back far too quick in the past, and Tom Lawrence offers something in that midfield. Probably only Cantwell that probably does, is quite sort of spicy in that midfield, that will, not scared to put in a tackle. As I said before, he shoots on sight. His long range shooting is tremendous. So I mean, that finish against, albeit a B team game, you still got to finish it in the top corner. So the ability's always been there. It's just a case of getting them match fit. So, yep, as I say, we've just got to tread carefully with this one and, not rush him too quick.
Brian, I'm just going to give you the final word because I think it's important. Obviously, he was a captain at Derby. Do you think his influence on the new guys and sort of driving standards could be important as well?
Could be. A guy that was a captain at another clubs, obviously, led a team and carried them all with him. So he's got that leadership sort of qualities in him. And I suppose, although we all know who the captain is just now, and that's not going to change. Effectively, he could be the captain of the sort of forward line, if you could put it like that. Drive them on and push them on. He obviously has certain standards that he likes to keep, scoring goals for Derby, chasing a championship. So he's not going to be. I would imagine he's one of these guys that's quite vocal and not shy in his own opinions. So yeah, I think absolutely he can be a lead in that team, no problem at all.
That comment from Michelle, if the producer can just get that comment from Michelle back on the screen for me, because it links in well to what I was going to talk about. If you can find it, there we are. Next 3 games are huge. You feel win them and it's some start, and Kilmarnock will be history. Connor, the manager did allude to sort of needing to make up for the defeat at Rugby Park this week if we can. I kind of felt like that was a hint at the Old Firm as well as tomorrow's trip to Dingwall.
Yeah, I think so. I think it will be. They're big games. Obviously, it's important that you make sure you go up to Dingwall tomorrow, get a result. Then you can look at next week as an opportunity because, take the second leg against PSV out of it for a moment. When it comes to the Derby game, that's your chance to make up for the Kilmarnock one, because if you win that, you're back level on points again, and then that game can get put to one side. Of course, the flip side of that is, if he doesn't win that, if he loses that and he falls 6 points behind this early in the season, get into the international break, that's just going to pile more pressure on him. So, yeah, it's big. But I think clearly from his tone in the press conference today, it sounds like he's determined to get those points in the board and to actually make up for that Kilmarnock disappointment. And, to be fair, and I know more will be made of it next week, but there's every chance. You're at home at the end of the day, so you're expected to win. I think 99% of the games that you're playing at home. So yeah, I think it will be a huge litmus test for Michael Beale this week.
Conor, you mentioned the sort of how he sounded in the press conference. I feel like he's sounding a bit more bullish, and he's been banging the drum about biding time and giving players a chance. And I kind of feel like he might feel himself people are actually starting to listen to him a bit here, because he certainly feels a lot more confident than he did maybe 10 days, 14 days ago.
Definitely, aye. And I think that's what getting a couple of positive results can do for you. Getting through against Servette was a good result given the pressures we were under and the fact it wasn't the best performance, but you're away from home in Europe and you still managed to get the job done. I think we all had our trepidations about Tuesday night against PSV, and in some ways he proved some of that wrong, because it was, for the most part, a very, very good performance. That, okay, we didn't win, but keeps us in the tie. And I think you can see now he is starting to feel a bit more confident. And I wonder if part of that is he's maybe starting to work out in his own mind now what his strongest team is and who his strongest players are going to be going forward.
I'll come to you on this one. Connor sort of touches there on worst case scenario, 6 points behind going into the international break. Unthinkable for me sat here right now. I'd like to think that we're on level pegging. However, you've got to win your home games, as Connor says. How pivotal will that be in terms of going at the winter break, the international break, sort of level par?
Be massive. I think we're beginning to slowly see this team click. They're beginning to come together. I think PSV showed that. Yeah, we were under the cosh for large parts of it, and you look at the stats in the game, but we did really well, and you can see it's improving week on week. Performances might not always be there, but there is an improvement. Even the Morton game, we could have easily won that 4-5-6-1 on another day. So to go in after this, I don't want to get too far ahead. The most important game is the game you've got upcoming. It always will be. We all look forward to the Old Firm game, and we always will. But we need to beat them at Ibrox. There's no doubt about it. We need to go into that international break level with them, because it puts more pressure on them. And then we need to see how they react with the fact that everything's new for them as well this season. The return of someone that not all the fans are on board with, much like us, really. I mean, it's not 100%. Not all of our fans, even in our own pod, there's not 100% backing for Michael Beale. So it's time to put the pressure back on them and see how they react, because they haven't had any for a couple of seasons. So to go in level would be absolutely massive. If we go in 6 points behind, as a few people have said in the comments, the pressure's right back on Beale. And all those that are beginning to sort of sit on the fence a little bit and wait to see how things turn out will be back on the other side of the fence and saying he needs to go. He's not good enough. He can't beat them in the big games, because it is all right beating them on a game where there's nothing at stake, but it's the big ones that count. And this is the first big one against them coming up. So these next 3 games are massive, all 3 of them. But yeah, to go into the international break, ready, level, coming back in on the other side of it, where our players can get a bit more time to train together and get used to the system, I think would be absolutely massive for us.
Just a quick point. Overhill's just made a point. We drew against a top team in PSV and looked more likely to score at the end. That was the sort of positive for me in that game. We were more likely to score in that game at the end. We weren't hanging on, trying to 10 men behind the ball and beating back shots and whatever. We were more likely to score and should have scored. Albeit there was a lot of criticism about that game on Tuesday, and I did the Rabble Daily with Scott Kerr this morning, and I was glad that somebody else actually thought we actually played half decent in that game. We've got to remember, PSV are no mugs. Okay, their defence wasn't great, but going forward, my word, that wingers are going to tear a few teams apart. And I didn't actually think the PSV performance was absolutely terrible. Okay, it wasn't what we were wanting, but you've got to remember, we're not playing SPL teams in the Champions League. We're playing, top teams. You're not going to get an easy game. So I think we just had to bear in mind who we were playing that night, and it was a good performance considering who we were playing.
Listen, I don't know if you watched the reaction show, but we were full of positivity after the game. I mean, it's the most positive you're ever going to see, Martin. So if you get a chance, jump back on that, certainly. Listen, 0141 628 723 79s are open. Let's get somebody on. It is a phone in after all. You can't all be out on the town on a Friday night. Some of you must be having an early night ready for the game tomorrow. Brian, I want to stick with you actually, because it was a point I was going to come to later on, but Leon Balogun spoke as well today. He was asked about Tuesday night's game and what he can take from that and bringing it into future matches. And the thing that I love was energy and intensity. Now, I think when Rangers play at that level, they're a match for anyone, especially in domestic. I think that's the key to blowing these teams away, is playing it with an energy and intensity. Is that something you think we can transcend into tomorrow's game and really go for it up there?
Yeah, I mean, I've always said effort. If you're playing a team lower than you in the league, and or like for Morton example, effort will get you so far. Talent and skill will take you even further, and we've got talent and skill in the squad in abundance compared to Ross County, with all due respect. If we play at an intensity like we did against PSV in certain parts of that game, Ross County won't be able to live with us. It's quite simple. So, and I love the way Leon Balogun was sort of speaking. He's not looking. He wasn't. He constantly was getting asked about, last season and that, and he's just like, no, we're just looking forward now. We can't look back. Even the Kilmarnock game, he was sort of dismissing and saying, end of, that's gone. We've just got to look forward. We can't do anything about it. So, Big Leon's got the positivity, and we just need a fast start tomorrow. A quick goal, pile the pressure onto Ross County, make them have to come out and do something. And, we have the better players. It's just a case of executing the plan.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better myself. Sorry. So, Connor, I'll come to you just on Balogun and carrying on from that, because I did think, like Brian says, he spoke really, really well. He was sort of pressured on Rangers' performances last season in the Champions League. I think they were maybe trying to allude to, the doings that we took. But he did say, you compete with the best, you've got to bring your best. And if you don't, things could get ugly. Now, he then went on to sort of say how about personal motivation from not just himself, having never played in the Champions League, but other players in the squad was going to get them there. I just thought it was really great to hear from a man who's got, sort of real broad shoulders and a level head.
Well, definitely. Listen, Leon Balogun is he's unflappable where things like that are concerned. He was part of a Rangers squad that was inches away from writing its name in history for good, and you can't forget that. He brought, along with the other members of that squad, he brought league title back to Ibrox. He was part of a squad that brought a Scottish Cup back, and he was part of a squad that got Europa League back. So he's been in those big moments. He knows what it's all about. I always find it strange when you ask a player who wasn't actually part of the team last year about the last campaign, because it had nothing to do with him. He wasn't in that back line that get absolutely demolished and picked apart by Liverpool. But at the end of the day, I think, the Champions League, we all know that when you go into the Champions League, you're probably thinking as a Rangers fan, right, if we can finish third, get into the Europa League, because there should be a team below you with the way that the pots work that you can beat. And that's what you look at. Anything above that would be a bonus. Obviously, you want to give a good account of yourself. I think last year they were let down a bit, but I also think it showed the inexperience of a squad of players who, most of which had never played in the Champions League before. And as a club, we hadn't played in the Champions League in well over a decade either. So there was a lot to learn from that campaign. And I can definitely say that I think we will, if we go into that group stage, we'll show that we've learned that. You also can't legislate for the kind of group we have.
If we lost him, we lost Connor there. He just sort of froze, didn't he?
He was in mid-flow there, wasn't he?
Mid-flow as well. Okay, Ian, I'll come at you then, because there is a game tomorrow. We are going to talk about that, but there's a couple of things I just want to sort of wrap up from the press before we jump on. Oh, he's back, Connor. Remember, we were just sitting mid-flow there. Do you want to sort of finish off, or is that done? Is that a kick in the Davina McCall's, was that?
That was a kick in the Davina's eye. I've kind of lost my train of thought.
Listen, don't worry about it. Because I say we want to try and wrap up the presser and then have a wee bit of a chat about the game tomorrow. So it was just again on Balogun, and he was sort of pressed on maybe having to fight for his position, Goldson and Suter particularly playing well. He did sort of say that whoever lines up, it's you've got to try and get the best out of each other. And then he sort of spoke sort of highly of John Suter as well. What did you make of his comments, Ari? Pairings and sort of trying to get the best out of whoever you're playing with.
It doesn't matter who you put in there. You want them to be a team that's going to get the best out of each other. Ideally, you want a right footer and a left footer in there, but I don't think you can actually take Suter out of the team at the moment, because he's been far too good. If anything, he's probably been. I mean, I know Connor's just coming back from injury, and overall, he will be the number one centre back with another. But at the moment, Suter's been our best centre back, even going into the end of last season. So I don't see how he actually dropped out the team at this point. So, but it is good that we've now got 4 fit centre backs, 4 main starting centre backs. You've got Long King as well, who is fit and ready to go. So if anybody does drop, there's someone there to take their place, which must keep you on your toes. So it's a great place to be compared to where we were last season, where it was just nip out onto the street, see who's walking by, and see if they can play centre back today. At one point, I think my phone went, but my knees are done, so I couldn't play. So it's a better position than we were last season. We're not so worried about having 2 centre midfield players in there. We know that we're going to get 2 centre backs, and I don't think anybody at this point has actually let us down, because when Balogun came in, I thought he was excellent. So there's pressure on everybody to keep sharp. If they don't keep sharp, they're going to be out of the team, and it's a brilliant position to be in.
Absolutely. I think we've actually got our first caller of the night, brilliantly timed. And it's phone-in legend, Alex. Alex, how are you doing?
I'm not bad, my friend. How are you?
Oh, champion. It's Friday night. It's a bank holiday in England, so I'm looking forward to a 3-day bender.
Right, no bother, mate. A couple of pints will do me for that.
What's your point for the guys?
Just want to say how happy I am with things the way they're going. I think we need a wee bit of an uplift, We've been quite depressed about stuff. Basically, delighted that scored in Europe. Never thought we were going to get anywhere near that result. We have to keep things moving on. We have to make sure that we beat Ross County and then go across there with a positive attitude.
Yeah, I remember your call Monday. I don't know if it was the first one or the second one, but you thought we were going to get trounced. Brian, obviously you were there. You were sharing the positivity only just 5-10 minutes ago. Alex is spot on in what he says. It's important that we go and don't dwell on that and keep the momentum going tomorrow.
Absolutely. And I think Ali McCleary was saying in the comments not long ago that we hadn't beat County in 3 years. Well, we beat them in December 2022, 1-0 up there. So it hasn't been 3 years since we've won up there. But yeah, I mean, the intensity was all there against PSV. We've just got to, as I say, the momentum's there now. We've got a bit of confidence from playing a top team like PSV. It's just a case of more of the same, please. Then it's the intensity that for me needs to be there. There's been a couple of league games where the league the intensity in the league's not been there, and we've suffered from that, and we've struggled to win. I think, as I said before, if we play at a certain intensity with the skill and the tactical nous that we've got against Ross Counties and teams like that, we'll win no problem. But you've got to match the sort of the desire and the intensity of the other team at the very least. There's times we've played. I mean, Killy, for example, the intensity just wasn't there. It was slow. It was cumbersome. So, as I said before, the intensity and effort will get you so far, but the skill and the better players will take you beyond. I would say.
Just what was it in particular you saw on Tuesday night that's made you feel so positive?
Well, I'll tell you what, at the end of the game, Peter Bosch, right? That's the man who knows the drill, by the way. A wee joke on that, for you. He said that they were playing flat out, okay? So if that was PSV playing flat out and we can match that kind of stuff, which we did do, all the very better for it. And none of this moaning and groaning about we were the better team, we had so much possession in the first half. It's who puts the ball in the back of the net. How many times have we seen Rangers playing and getting stuffed for the odd goal? After we've been absolutely like 70% plus in charge of a game. It's happened so often to us. It's nice to see it getting its own way. Things make up for each other, And by the way, just a wee quick, what a pass that was through for that goal. He bent it like a boomerang. I called myself a boomerang the last time I phoned, remember? I said, what a pass that was.
Listen, Alex, some great points tonight. Come on. I like happy, positive Alex. Really good call. And the Peter Bosch joke is going in my notebook. I'm stealing that. Cheers, Alex. Thank you.
No bother, mate. Cheers, all the best to you. All of you.
Yeah, Alex has started us off on a nice positive note. I like that. I think he's eclipsed himself from Monday night. So 0141 628 7237. Nearly get another number there. Like and subscribe as well. We are on YouTube. It does help the podcast grow and become more visible as well. So we do welcome that. Call the number. You could be on next. Martin's sitting there patiently waiting for your next call. But that was a good one to start us off. And hopefully the positivity continues into what is an important weekend for us. Colin, I'll come to you just on some of Alex's points there. Dessers' assist. Do you think that he's done enough, Dessers, the other night to start tomorrow?
I would think so, I think, listen, the guys had a lot of stick from myself included. In fact, I sat here on Monday night and I think I said that I'd have started Danilo rather than Dessers. I think, a game like that against Ross County, he should get some good opportunities. And I think the more he gets, this kind of assists he got there, that's going to build his confidence. If he gets a couple more goals in the bag as well, I think it's all going to help. And I think it's important that if you're going to try and build a team that can gel together, you need a level of consistency. Albeit that doesn't mean you just blindly play players if they're not putting in a shift for you. But I think having that level of consistency with the front three might help to get a better understanding, because we've seen in the past there was times, I think at their very, very best, there was times where you would say that Ryan Kent and Morelos had almost a telepathic understanding of where one was going to go. You're talking maybe for the 55 season where they were at their top draw best. You could see that, and that's what you're looking for again. So I think he'll start and hopefully get us a couple of goals and a comfortable win to come back down the road with.
We'll be delighted with that. Chris is waiting. Chris, you're through to the Rangers Rabble phone-in. How we doing, my friend?
Not bad, Robert. How's yourself?
Champion, listen, thanks for calling. What's your point for the guys?
I've got some points. The first one is about Hagi. I would like him to stay because I think he's a terrific player. But he's not going to be in the starting lineup. So it's really down to Hagi if he's happy being a sub. And also as well, I watched the game on Tuesday. I wish I was there, but I was working so I couldn't make it because I live in Northumberland, but I've been supporting Rangers for nearly 45 years. So my family as well supported them. But like I said, Hagi, I watched the game on Tuesday, and I did say to last week about Intes, and I was glad he was playing because basically my midfield three is with Ventes, Raskin, and Todd. I don't know about you, Brian, but I think they three basically are midfield starters. I would give them a team for PSV next week. I would go with Bartland, Tavernier, Golson, Suter, Yilmaz. My three midfield is Ventes, Raskin, Todd. And I would actually give Atondo a chance. I don't know about you. Akiri's not always produced, but you like almost scored 2 goals on Tuesday. He was a little bit inches away from that volley. So if he started doing volleys 30 yards out, we must be doing something right.
let's take your first point, Ian. Ian, let's take your sorry, Chris. Let me just take your first point. We covered a lot of ground there. Ian, Yanis Hagi. Now the manager spoke today saying we're loaded in attacking positions. I felt like there was a small dig at Yanis's revelations after the game against Morton because he said that there were sort of adult conversations that he didn't think would get out. What's your thoughts? Do you think we're going to cash in? There's been links to a Turkish team yesterday. Maccabi Tel Aviv today reported numbers of £4 million. That's something that the club won't turn down, right?
I can't see the club turning down $4 million. He's not going to start many games. I'm with Chris. I'd like him to stay. I say he is that type of player that can spot passes that other players in our team can't. I think it's one of the few things that me and James generally agree on is that Hagi's a player that needs to stay at the club. But if Todd wants first team football week in, week out, he's not going to get it here. Much the same as Scott Wright says he wants football week in, week out. I'm not comparing the two, so don't jump at me. But they do. If they want first team football week in, week out, at the moment, they're not going to get it here, so they're going to need to go elsewhere. $4 million is a little bit on the low side. No, carry on, Chris.
You've got to think about, does his Romanian manager be happy being him basically 4th or 5th choice? I think he should stay because he's a cracking player, but realistically, is he going to even go and get on the bench with Lawrence when he comes back? That's how you got to look at it.
No, I can't see it.
But the problem is, if you get $4 million for him, how much is it going to cost to get another quality player equal ability as Hagi? $8-9 million we'll have to pay.
But you've just said yourself we've got a returning Tom Lawrence who's more than capable of filling that void.
Aye.
You know,
I think Lawrence is a terrific player.
No, yeah, absolutely. Brian, just before we let Chris go, he was picking his team for Tuesday. I'm sort of thinking about tomorrow more so. Do you think Rabbi Matondo starts ahead of Sima as Chris has him starting in Eindhoven?
So Matondo starts tomorrow and Sima starts on Wednesdays, what you're suggesting?
Well, Chris had Rabbi starting in Tuesday, starting in Eindhoven, I think he said, but I was sort of thinking, does he get in tomorrow?
You've got to think he's pace. Because when he came on, Eindhoven defence was absolutely scared to death. So you've got to think he's got to have space because they're going to have to come forward because they're at home. And I think you'll be able to take it. But the problem with Tondo is, how often does he turn up? I watched him last year, and you probably can count on one hand how many good performances he's had. So just because he had a good 20 minutes at iBox against PSV doesn't mean he's a world beater. He's got to do a consistency.
Well,
that's the key where Tondo is.
To get consistency, you've got to get games, and Matondo just wasn't getting games. I would be more inclined for him playing against Eindhoven more than Dingwall, purely because there'll be more room for him in Eindhoven than Dingwall. Dingwall's a much smaller sort of pitch than the Eindhoven one, I would imagine. So I would be more inclined for him to play against Eindhoven.
I'll give you my all-time Rangers, David Cooper. You couldn't tie David Cooper's shoelaces.
Oh, listen, I think
my ultimate Ranger.
Chris, as much as I love your
you're
passion
probably a bit too young.
No, but listen, I admire your passion for David Cooper, but there's no way we can compare him to Rabble Matondo tonight. There's too much going on. Chris, thanks for your call. Make sure you call again soon, okay?
No problem, Robert.
Cheers, mate. All the best.
No problem, mate.
Brian, just to you, obviously saying you wouldn't start Matondo tomorrow, I think he's got to get on at some point to try and put that ghost away that he had, that horrific one-on-one up there, if you remember, and sort of fluffed it and couldn't beat the goalie. So I think he's got to get on at some stage. I think he's got something to offer on the left-hand side at the minute. So, strike while the iron's hot and all that. There was a point, a 499 super sticker, I think it'd come up. If we just pull that up, we can get that talking about the stick Matondo's taken over the last year, and he showed the last few games that he could potentially have it. Well chuffed for the lad. Connor, it's great sentiment.
It is great sentiment. And listen, it's natural because when you've seen him up until probably that game against PSV when he really come onto a game, although I actually thought he played really well against Livingston as well in that game. For me, I kind of seen him in that game and thought, maybe there's something we can do there. But obviously, till that point, he had to prove himself, and he's still got to prove himself because, listen, one game does not a world-class player make. He's got to go and keep that level of consistency up, and hopefully he can force his way into being a regular starter. Because I do think he's a good footballer. I think the pace he's got will come in brilliant in certain games. I think when you're playing teams like Ross County who are just going to sit back and try and frustrate you for a lot of the game and then come out and counters, if you've got somebody like him who, when they've come out a bit to go for a chance, can switch it on and get right down in their throats quickly, that's going to help you. So, I'm happy for Matondo that he's getting a good bit of praise right now, but he's got to keep on proving himself. Otherwise, that criticism will come back because players like that, that's what happens with them.
Thanks for the super sticker, Gazabuck, or whatever it is. I can never get to terms with this. That's when I know I'm old, when I don't know it's a super sticker, a super chat. I just know it's a good thing, and we've got to talk about it. So cheers, Gazabuck.
He still thinks it's Super Trooper.
I don't know. Honestly. Listen, just on Rabble Matondo, and it was a point that Martin actually made on Rabble Extra the other night, I believe it was on. I can't remember. I've been on that many shows this week. And Martin was just saying how great it is to, when a player proves us wrong. And I kind of feel that was a point well made, because as much of the stick that Gazabuck says that Matondo's taken, it's great to actually see him contributing and playing actually with a freedom as well. So long may that continue, and hopefully it continues again tomorrow. I thought we were going to get another call there, but we're not. So 01416287237. If you dial now, you could be on next. You could be chatting with the guys. So that would be great to have you on. I'll come to you. Just on sort of, we delved into Yanis Hagi there. You spoke about him and your thoughts as well. Glenn Kamara, that one looks pretty much a done deal. That'll be done before the window slams shut, as they say.
Yeah, we were all hoping it'd be done before now, because there's something that both Glenn and the club need to do. He needs to get on with his career. We need to close that book, get him off the wage bill, and hopefully opens up for possibility of bringing maybe one or two more in before this window shuts with his money. But the $5 million from Champions League, the Sakala money, possibly another 4 million to chuck on top of that if Hagi does go. So yeah, it's just something that needs to be done for the betterment of everybody, really. It's a shame. I mean, for the 50 grand, you can't say we haven't got our money's worth out of Glenn Kamara. I think the Leipzig goal alone probably pays that back and then some. But you can't knock a player that's cost us 50 grand is going to walk out for potentially 5.5 million. Goes with probably all the blessings of everybody in the support and at the club. He has been a decent player for us. It's just a shame it's kind of ended the way it has, really. But it's a good for everybody. So good luck to him.
Point well made. Listen, we've got another caller. Porter, welcome back to the Rangers Rabble phone-in. How you doing, my friend?
All right, boys. How you doing?
Smashing. Listen, delighted you've called back up. What's your point for the gents?
It's just a few points, mate. But my first point is about Rabbi Matondo, mate. Obviously, he's had a stop-and-start season, mate. Well, a stop-and-start spell at Rangers, mate. But last season, when he first came in, mate, I was quite excited for him. I was at the pre-season games last season against West Ham and Spurs, and mate, he looked brilliant, and I was dead excited about him. I'm like, this boy's going to be maybe player of the season. Then obviously, it just never happened, did it? But what I will say is, mate, obviously last season, he didn't hit the heights that we were all hoping for. But Kent's not there anymore, mate, and his preferred position is the left, right? And I know he's had his issues in that, and he had a big injury last season, and that did basically just hamper the full season for him, right? But see, at the end of last season, mate, he was in the gym and that. He was working hard. He did look determined to try and make his way back in the team. And then, obviously, he didn't really play a lot. Then he got a few games at the end of the season, mate, against Celtic and that, mate. He was quite good against Celtic, mate. I know he didn't score or anything, right? But him and Sakala that game were pretty good. This season, mate, I've heard people saying he's a confidence player, and I agree with that. I think he is a confidence player, mate. But his confidence is hiding it. So do you not think they should be maybe playing him? They give him a game or two when he's confident to see if he is going to be the real deal for us, or if he's not. And because if he is going to be the player that we're all hoping for, mate, I just think this is the right time to play him. You know what I mean?
I would say, yeah. You're kind of swinging my opinion back to maybe starting him tomorrow. I was sort of an opinion starting him midweek.
Sorry. I'll just put in before you say it, because he was playing right wing last season, mate. And against he came on. I don't think he started against West Ham. I think he came on right, and he set up a goal. You could see the pace right away, right. You can tell he just wants to run with the ball, take people on, which is good, mate. You need that, because I think sometimes up front now, like Seema, I'm not ruling the guy out, right? But sometimes you're like, what kind of player is he? Because he seems to know. I don't know. I know he's got a lot of pace, Seema, but sometimes he seems hesitant to take people on. And he doesn't need to always beat the player, but he can win his free kicks, he can get his corners. Do you know what I mean? Even throw-ins, mate. I just think he always seems to want to run a wee bit, then cut in. But when Rabbi came on against PSV, obviously he scored that. Mate, it was a lovely finish for the boy. But mate, he was running into the box against players. He was taking the pass one, maybe two, and then losing it. And you're like, I'm all right with you losing the ball, mate, if you're trying to do the right things, if you get what I mean.
I mean, as I said earlier, Porter, I think my only concern about him starting tomorrow is obviously the room on the pitch that that he might not have.
Yeah.
Obviously the Dingwall pitch is, I would say, a little bit smaller than the Eindhoven one. He might get a bit more room in Eindhoven and cause a bit more problems for us on the counter-attack, because obviously PSV playing at home, they will probably have a decent amount of the ball. But you make the point, he's on a rich, he's playing well, he's scored in midweek, so there is an argument for starting him tomorrow. Well, as you say, strike while the iron's hot. So it's a nice dilemma to have, as Curry was saying earlier. It's nice to have, speaking about players that are in form and debating who's playing. So it's going to be an interesting team lineup tomorrow, that's for sure.
No, definitely, mate. And just what I'm about to say, mate, before I'll let you think about this, mate. Obviously, it's a massive week for Rangers, mate. They need to win tomorrow for Kilmarnock, mate. That was obviously, we can't go 2 away games in a row without winning. I don't think we'll win the Mora, mate. I just hope we do. Obviously, if we win the Mora, mate, the PSV games are 50-50. I mean, I'm not being defeatist or anything, mate, but I don't care. Well, I don't care, right? I want to go to the Champions League. I'm not like, but it's not my main concern this season, if you know what I mean. Rangers have been good in Europe, mate, the last few years, except last season, mate, in the Champions League. It was a hard one to watch, but we had the group of death, mate. Like Napoli won Serie A. Ajax are always a good team, and Liverpool. But what my point is domestically, mate, we need to win trophies this season. We need to, domestically, we've not been good enough. We need to win trophies this season. And I just feel that if we can beat Ross County tomorrow, just say we do go through against PSV, which, listen, it's a 50-50 game. I think there's every chance we will. And just say we beat Celtic at Ibrox. I mean, this is one of the weeks that these players will just, if everything goes perfect, they just won't look back for it. They'll just kick your season on, and you have me phoning every week going, come on, boys.
Listen, brilliant, Porter. That's made me smile. I hope to God you're right that we do get the momentum in the week, and we do go charging on. So thanks for your call, Porter. Any time, mate. Thank you.
Right, boys, all the best. Bye bye.
Cheers. Thank you. Connor, he makes some great points, some great positivity again for the caller. Just on how important the momentum could be if things all align for us.
Absolutely. I mean, it's amazing, isn't it, what one result can do for the mindset. I mean, this time a week ago we were feeling quite so positive, but all of a sudden you get a good performance and a decent result during the weekend. We're all feeling a bit more chipper about things. But I think obviously, there's no great way to build momentum than to get wins on the board. So I think if they get a good win tomorrow and then, look to midweek, I think it's going to give them that boost. Obviously, ideally, if you can be comfortable tomorrow and maybe get a couple of goal lead or whatever, you can then maybe look at, can you rest some players with an eye on the game midweek? Because obviously you want everybody to get through that game unscathed as well, without any kind of injury problems. And you'll be fine. And obviously, just to touch on the point he was talking about with Europe in general, in terms of the Champions League and the Europa League, we all want to be in the Champions League. I wouldn't care if that means us having to watch us getting beat 4 or 5-0 off of the best teams on the planet, because at the end of the day, that's your litmus test. When you're a big club like this, that's where you want to be, challenging yourself. Let's go against the best players. But we've got a pretty good run, a record of having runs in the Europa League as well, which I suspect if we get into the Champions League, we may well end up in anyway. So, let's just focus on getting to the Champions League first, and we can worry about chatting about the Europa League when that happens.
I just wanted to get into the Champions League to hear Porter ring up and say, come on. I loved that. That was brilliant. So, listen, as always, like and subscribe, all that nonsense. We do need it. We do appreciate it. It really does help the podcast, as I said before. And as well, we are available on Patreon if you like what you listen to. You can get a bit more content there as well. 9 o'clock tonight, for instance, you've got the Legends series with Brian and Wilf. They've been hard at it, talking about Davy Robertson. So that'll be out at 9 p.m. for Rabble directors over on Patreon. We've still got time as we hit the home straight for another couple of calls. So 01416287237. Get on, get your points to the panel. They've been brilliant tonight, and we've still got them for another 10 minutes or so. So let's work them hard if we can. Ian, I'll come to you because the manager was asked about transfers today. Now we have sort of touched on the couple outgoings. It seems to always fall on you. You're the Michael Bridge tonight. Hagi, we've dealt with. Kemar Roof, we've dealt with. Interestingly, he did say when asked about defensive areas and players coming in, so they may respond to it if there's anything out of the ordinary. And the defensive area was a possibility, but not a definitive.
Yeah, it was very unlike Michael Beale not to just say, yeah, we're going for this guy. He played that one quite close to his chest. We've had a lot of names recently linked in. Matey boy at Millwall, but I think he's just signed a new contract, does he not, with Millwall?
Jake
So
Cooper.
that probably, yeah, Cooper. So I think he's probably now no longer a target because that's going to just cost us more money. Suter's brother, apart from watching him in the World Cup over the winter, I haven't really seen him play much because I don't think he played a great deal for Stoke whenever I watched the EFL show down here. So I've not really seen him play, or maybe it's just somebody completely different. It's one of those weird ones because normally Michael Beale gives you some kind of clue or indication of where we're looking, and he didn't on this occasion. So I think we need it. I think we do need some extra cover. We do have defenders that are injury prone. We know this. So I think another backup there would be quite nice. But I don't think you're going to get the likes of Cooper and Suter's brother coming in to play backup anyway. So interesting times ahead to see who that could be. Is it him or will it be we're actually going to get involved in deadline day? Are we actually going to be sitting there till midnight waiting to see breaking Rangers have signed X on deadline day, which would be nice because we haven't had that in a couple of seasons.
Well, Brian, just on sort of reading between the lines, right? We're allowed to do that. It's a podcast. So we can make stuff up. Eden Hazard coming to Rangers. That was from a cracking source last night. Just on the manager sort of saying we may respond to it if there's anything out of the ordinary. Now, to me, 2 and 2 together, getting 5. Would that then suggest would maybe a Ben Davies moving on be something out of the ordinary? Would then we'd react to by bringing in a Harry Suter on loan?
Is he a left-sided centre half? I don't think he is.
But let's just say he is for the topic of conversation in the podcast.
Well, if he is, then you could see it happening. But I think Michael Beale wants a left-sided centre half to come in to replace Davies because I think it's quite obvious that he doesn't fancy Davies. He's not featured. We've not seen him, so I wouldn't be at all surprised if Ben Davies is out the door before the window shuts. Two brothers at the same club. Not sure. Hasn't happened for a long time, so I'm not sure about that one. Like Ian, I've not seen much of him. I've only seen him in the World Cup, and he got sort of good rave reviews there. So not too sure about that one. I mean, let's be honest. The Eden Hazard chat. The only way you believe that is if you're a Martian from outer space and you've just seen that. I mean, if anybody believes that sort of patter, then you really need to have a look at yourself. But I mean, no, that's just pure banter. There's no other explanation for that. I'm afraid if you can't see the funny side of that, then just give up.
Well, Brian, obviously, I've just been reminded. Obviously, the McCrories were brothers, weren't they? So we do have.
Never played together though.
We do have another caller waiting. John, welcome to the Rangers Rabble podcast. You're live on the phone in. What's your point for the guys tonight?
Good evening, everybody. Nice to talk to you. My point is this. This is a really important week for Rangers. The next 3 games are, in my opinion, crucial. We need to obviously win against Ross County tomorrow and hopefully get through against PSV and beat Celtic next weekend. My question is, do we make any drastic changes tomorrow to keep players for Wednesday and possibly next weekend as well? Or do we go with a fully strong team and hope that nobody gets injured or battered by a hammer thrower and we don't carry any injuries? Because the players we've got that are playing really well, we need to keep them injury-free and able to play. I'm just wondering if you think we should make any changes tomorrow, or do we go with more or less the same team that played against PSV during the week?
Well, I mean, to be fair, John, I think it's one of those kind of games you're playing against a side in Ross County away from home that we have had our trials and tribulations up there at times, and I think Michael Beale will be wanting to make sure that he gets 3 points in the bag. Before he looks at that, I think you could maybe make 1 or 2 slight changes. You could maybe see him personally. I'd throw Balogun in there, get him starting. There's no reason you couldn't give either Suter or Goldson a rest with the game in mind. Maybe Arabi Matondo gets a start over Sima. I think you might see small changes like that, but I wouldn't think he'll make any drastic changes tomorrow. I think he'll kind of go with a similar starting lineup and then hope that he can get maybe a lead with a couple of goals maybe before the other mark, and then start to make the changes with an eye on during the week. Because the one thing we can't afford to do, having spoke about it earlier, we can't afford to go and drop any points up there tomorrow. No way the game we've got coming along next week, because then that would take away the opportunity to get parity again.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you, Connor, because the one of the things that we don't want to happen is we don't pick up maximum points tomorrow and we get put out by PSV. Then the pressure mounts for the Old Firm game, and we all know what they're like. It can be a lottery at times. But I was just wondering if that's the case, and let's say that Celtic beat us. Do you think that's our season knackered then?
I don't think it's knackered, but it's tougher because there's still 2 more games to go and anything can happen, and they're not playing well themselves at the moment, so they can drop points. They look at they're out the One Cup already. They struggled probably more than we did against Kilmarnock to get through them. So I wouldn't say it was completely knackered so early in the season. Stranger things can happen. I mean, you think the first season that Ange was in, we beat them at Ibrox, and everybody said that was their season knackered, and they went on to win the league. So for me, I kind of go against it. I think you play your strongest team, get the game won, then make the changes. You got 5 subs now. Get the game won, then just make the 5 changes and get the players off. Because all 3 games are important. Ross County is important. PSV is important. Celtic's important. So win all 3. Go into the winter break level. Play the strongest team you have available to you. We've got a massive squad, and we've got quality players to fill the gaps if someone gets injured. So I don't think it will knacker our season, but it will put a hell of a lot of pressure on them. But I would play the strongest team I've got available to me.
John?
Yeah, I agree with you. Yes.
Just before you come on, we were sort of talking about as the window sort of comes to a close. Is there any sort of areas you feel that we need to sort of strengthen just before we get into this Champions League and make sure?
Possibly either a left back or a right back, just to give Borna and Tav back up in case something happens, or maybe they have a drop of form, because Yilmaz isn't ready to come back yet. I don't think Michael Beale should risk him in case he gets injured again, because he seems to be very injury prone, and we don't really have any backup for right back if something happens to Tav or he has a drop of form. Other than that, we're pretty strong everywhere else. I mean, there's talk about bringing Morelos back. I think that's just ridiculous, because he didn't do anything for a long, for a good while. But other than right and left back, nah, I think we're pretty strong everywhere else.
John, brilliant call. Please do call again, all right?
I will do. Nice to talk to you all. And
You too, mate.
come on, the Rangers.
Come on, the Rangers.
See you later.
Brilliant call. Listen, the calls have been great tonight. Guys, we have made it to the end of the show. Some good stuff, a good shift. I will just reiterate as well, Rabble Directors, 9 p.m, so you've got enough time to stick the kettle on. There'll be the Legend Series continues with Brian and Wilf, with Davey Robertson. Brian there, the Darth Vader version. That's not you, Brian, is it at home? Super sticker, £5. Thank you very much, Brian. Thank you for supporting the podcast. We do appreciate it. Back tomorrow, as always, for the build-up and the reaction. Looking forward to that as well. I'm sure it'll be another positive day in the hands of Martin. But listen, thanks for listening tonight. Thanks for all your comments as well. And obviously, thanks for your calls. That's been the Rangers Rabble podcast phone, and cheers.